Dude, what happened last session? Dude. Well, you
Man,
were you were freaking
I was
what
pissed.
how did we start last session?
I
Oh
was
yeah, you
pissed. I came out of the
were
cave and I was just standing on the ledge waiting to get beamed up. And
mm-hmm,
Alden created a plan to get back at the Nightmare for torturing him by turning Vaku
mm-hmm,
against him in some way by either shutting the cave in or, saying he's a monster and that we got to go down there and kill him, etc. When I got back up there, that plan sort of changed.
no,
And Vaku decided that she was going to respond to the nightmare by agreeing to go down there. And while she did that, I explored her little mausoleum of
no museum,
goodies
yeah.
and stuck my finger in some stuff, looked under some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of the tip of my pinky finger is multicolored now.
Yep.
Um, so that was cool. Then we went back down there. Turns out, they had their little spat about lovers, and we found out the nightmare just used to be some guy that got lured away from his camp while they were both climbing up the mountain to speak with the god of sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
And things went awry. They've been, I think you said it was 10,000 days since they last spoke.
Yeah, I'd have to
Well,
rewatch, but I think it's like 100,000 days.
oh, okay. Yeah, you said 10,000. I was just kind of like, that doesn't seem that long ago. That's how many years? Um,
It's 25
so
years.
yeah, 25 years. So it's sort of damn. That's a long way for 25 years. Um, and as things developed, we found out that the Nightmare is an underling for the God of Lies, which
Mm-hmm.
really freaked out Vaku, but reassured Alden. And Alden, we tried to leave, and we found out that the only way to leave is to complete the Nightmare's trials,
Mm-hmm.
which Alden's already done, so he's free to go. However, Vaku isn't. So Alden opted to stay and watch, and that's about it. We're right
Yep.
at the start of
There we are.
Vaku's nightmare scenario.
A beautiful summary. I think that how we're going to start off is Vaku is going to say to the Nightmare, "How, Syme? Is there really any other way that I? Is there any way you could just get me out of here?" And Syme says, this big deep voice resonating throughout this it's almost endless space around you all, says, uh, "No, I don't know any other way. You must go through." And then his voice gets cut off, and you hear, "Baku, the Sunlight Witch. What are you afraid of?" And
Oh
Vaku,
no.
Vaku, you're standing back and you can kind of see them in the darkness in the little distance. You can see Vaku just kind of shake her head, and she says, I that's not something." And then the nightmare says, "Perhaps it is spiders." And you hear,
Oh no.
oh, whoops, where are we? You hear off to the right once again. There's these little pittering, pattering feet start to
Oh.
approach Vaku from the right as this larger spider starts to approach Vaku. And uh, it starts to approach Vaku, and Vaku says, "What, Syme? What are you?" And she just raises her hand, and just as similarly when she sent the chandelier or the uh, big thing of fire down onto the Yeti that you had pushed over not so
Uh-huh.
long ago, but a couple sessions back. Uh, this blast of yellow light kind of shoots through this spider. And I'll say, interestingly, it kind of bounces off the floor behind the spider as the
Huh.
sunlight kind of bursts through the spider and it lays limp in the ground and bounces off the floor. And as you look at this beam of sunlight kind of go off, it just kind of keeps going into the far distance. You can see
Huh.
it, you know,
Shot in
a
space.
distance. It's as if there is no
What happens to lasers in
walls.
Star Wars? Yeah.
Exactly. It's just gone. There's it never kind of reflects back. And the spider just hole through it, just instantly.
Uh,
Let's just say dies, and as its body kind of fizzles away, Vaku kind of looks back, and you'll notice, I'll say, that the nightmare is no longer there. Uh,
hmm.
it is as if it is, throughout this whole display, it is now this disembodied voice. And I'll say, Vaku says, Sime, is this really your routine? What? And Vaku kind of gets cut off and says, that did not work. What if it is snakes? And you, once again, you hear from the left side just kind of the scraping against the ground as this ice snake starts to approach, and Vaku almost looks back and almost looks exasperated by this,
I
and
if she's looking at me, I shrug. This is scripted.
kind of looks back at you, and she's just kind of looks at it, and once again just doesn't say anything and just shoots out a beam of ice. And the snake is probably you know, uh, like 3 feet, or like
A beam
five
of
feet
ice or
tall.
sunlight?
A beam of sunlight through the ice
Okay.
snake, and kind of once again just kind of
Oh, it's
breaks
an ice
into a
snake. That's
thousand
stupid.
yeah, breaks into
Okay.
1,000 kind of shards of ice as once again the sunbeam just continues on. And Syme says, or she looked back at you and you kind of shrugged, and she kind of looks back at you again and she says, is this is this what you
This
went
is
through?
Yep. It's scripted. I think he
she,
has a script.
she says, do you know what's next?
I think you're about to fall or something.
You hear the voice, as soon as you say that, you hear the voice say, hmm, perhaps it is heights. And I'll
Yep.
say for you and Vaku, visually, suddenly you feel like you are just in the air and you are plummeting to the ground. Like,
You know that face I sent you of Alden earlier?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's the face he's making right now.
As yeah, I'll say yeah. What is just his face as he's falling to the ground? Does he prepare at all? It feels like his body's falling, but how much trust does he have in it?
Uh, it's hard to overcome that instinct of, fear when you're falling to your death,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Alden sort of hesitates for a little bit and then just standing perfectly straight in the air, letting his cloak fly up and all around,
Mm-hmm.
just sort of looks over at Vaku.
Yeah, I'll say that Vaku's reaction is one, having not gone through this before, starts to react, and it's a very weird perspective for you. I'll say, I mean, it looks like you both are falling through the air, but because you are just kind of standing straight, you can see Vaku kind of falls to the ground, but within the air. Like, you know that it's an illusion. So you can kind of almost tell, looking from an outside perspective, that Vaku is still on this flat surface, right? Like, her cloak is also going into the air, but it's looked like she's like kneeling on the ground, as it looks like she's trying to brace herself from a fall. She lets out a little cry, but as the ground quickly approaches, you, as if you were just translated to the ground, like teleported to the ground. Your body falls and you don't feel any impact, just as you didn't before. Your feet, you're just now standing on the ground. Vaku's like, as if she had impacted on the ground. She kind of looks up and she starts to get up and she says, Sai, this is not funny at all. And with this, uh, the voice calls out and says, you, it looks like I'm going to need something stronger. And suddenly you are, I'll say that you're like maybe like 25, 30 feet back from Vaku, like you're still like kind of close. You know, you were standing on
Hmm.
this threshold where you know you would be leaving this quote unquote realm. And you suddenly just all the air kind of swirls around you, much like when you had your vision of when you were either in the back alleyway, that vision, or when you were in your parents' mansion when you were a child. It the swirling occurs around you, and then suddenly, you know, this smoke that is around you, this kind of fog, dissipates. You are on top of a mountain within the middle of a blizzard. You're standing within the snow. You look down and you look across and you see Vaku is now standing there, and there's a little campfire set in front of Vaku within this snowstorm. It appears like they're in this little ledge where there's this little overhang. And from your left, you see someone start to approach along this path along the side of this ledge. And who you see is this male gnome that kind of has this big black bushy beard and is wearing this, you know, I guess like a black beanie is what it looks like, but like that's not really a normal fashion, I'll say in
Yeah.
Sumia, but it's wearing like this black beanie kind of cap over its head, or over his head. It's walking up, has this big fur on, and starts walking up to Vaku, or starts walking to the side, and Vaku's looking around very confused, and she puts her eyes on this gnome walking up, and I'll say your eyes, or you can tell that Vaku is, her eyes kind of widen, and she says, Syme, is that you? And as the gnome starts to walk up, you realize that this is, I guess, whoever Syme was before they turned into the nightmare. And starts to walk up, and Vaku goes to start to like walk towards uh, Syme, you know, kind of the slow walk as if she's like seeing someone for the first time, and she says, "Well, I didn't." And as she gets closer, Syme kind of puts out a hand and stops Vaku from getting any closer, and they're around the same height. Like, you know, Syme is probably like, you know, 3 feet tall. Vaku's like a little bit shorter.
Mm.
And you see that Syme puts out a hand, and Vaku looks confused, and Syme says, in this voice that is not a deep voice like the voice you've been hearing of the nightmare, but it's just this normal voice, says, "Do you know why I left?" And Vaku kind of furrows her brows. She says, "What? Uh, what?" And it says, Syme says, "I left because you're insufferable. You never really believed in any of the things that, you never really believed in our quest to Sintong. I know that it was really me that really wanted to go." And Vaku shakes her head a little bit and she says, "No, I wanted to go. Syme, I." And Syme says, "No, no, I know it was foolish of me to bring you along, and that's why I left you, Vaku." Her eyes kind of, you know, you can see, you know, this older goblin, you know, throughout all the time that you've seen her scared, and uh, seen her very pompous, you know, you've seen her, you know, even laugh a few times or like delighted, but here you can kind of see just the sadness in her eyes, even from this distance and even through the snow. Just her whole entire demeanor is this weird atmosphere of it, of the sadness. And she says, "What? I," and he says, Syme says, "No, you know, I left you because I knew that you wouldn't really follow me through with the journey. And we heard the prophecies that, you know, Sintog would only accept one, right? And so he was obviously going to accept me, so I just continued on my way without you. I didn't really need you anyway." And Vaku Uh, you can see that her eyes have kind of gotten bigger, and she says, "Syme, you said that there was some," and the voice says, "I lied. Whatever that cloak is I'm wearing was a lie. They're trying to get you to convince you to come here, stay here. But the truth is, Vaku, and he kind of puts his hand out on his Vaku's shoulder. He says, I never really loved you. And Syme starts to walk away. Is there anything that you do? You're just kind of standing there watching.
Mm, yeah, Alden's watching, and he's sort of on the fence because he had to go through something similar,
Mm-hmm.
and he's so sort of pissed at Vaku for making him go down to the nightmare without really telling him what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So he's sort of feeling like, you know what, I'm gonna let her be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
But then he thinks, boy, there was a lot of good stuff in that museum. um,
Yeah.
and I don't really think I can get back up there without her help. So Alden's gonna go, it's not real. None of it is real.
I'll say that Vaku looks at you as you're screaming this, and uh, the vision kind of, once again the smoke goes around, and you're once again in this just a blank emptiness room. And Vaku looks at you, and you can see her eyes are wide, and now, especially without all the snow in the way, you can see that there's tears kind of forming in her eyes, and she says, "You're, uh, you're right, Alden. It's not real. It's not." And the voice says, "Alden Costello, you stay out of this." And
Ah,
you
shut up.
you you as you try and go to scream shut up at this voice, your mouth is not making any noise. uh
Ugh.
it it is as if you uh have been silenced. But Vaku is kind of looking at you as she's turned around, and the voice says, right after saying Alden Costello, stay out of this, it says, I think I've found your greatest fear. And you, as once again the smoke kind of starts to swirl around you, as before you were kind of in this blizzard area, suddenly you are almost blinded with light, as it's almost, this light is entering your eyes that you almost have to squint at. As you're finally able to open your eyes and kind of adjust to it, what you see before you is you are standing upon this red cracked stone pillar that's maybe about 10 feet wide in a diameter. And you're
Mhm.
looking out and you see Vaku is also standing on one of these similar pillars. And they're sticking about maybe 15 to 20 feet off the ground, but you quickly see that it is not ground. It is as if you were looking at the surface of the sun, like you've seen it in, like, recreations, like the documentary, like this sunspot, this kind of red and yellow, kind of just amalgamation of fire as you are looking across, excuse me, as you are so close to quote unquote the surface of this sun, you can see that it expands across the entire plane is this red and yellow and orange, just magma essentially, but it's purer than that. It's like this molten plasma. You can see off in the distance there's these just spurts of these sun flares and these just arcs of this lava as you're looking across. And I'll say that the heat is, as if you were standing, like, a foot in front of a bonfire. It's just this immense heat on your skin. It doesn't feel like anything's burning, but it's a very uncomfortable feeling as you are standing there. And you see Vaku, is also kind of adjusting her eyes, and she looks out at you, and you can see behind Vaku suddenly emerging maybe like 200 feet in the distance, this massive figure starts to emerge from the sun. And as you see, its body is the same kind of reddish cracked rock that you're standing upon, but its head floating above its shoulders is a miniature sun, much like the surface that you are looking at now. And as this figure, hundreds of feet in the distance kind of emerges, it stands to be maybe hundreds of feet tall as it emerges. And Vaku's looking at you. I'll say, Alden, what face do you make as you're seeing this?
uh, it's just pure shock, slack-jawed, eyes wide. Just no other possible expression besides complete awe and wonder and fear, confusion. Just, yeah.
All wrapped into one.
It's what you'd expect the face someone would make when they see, a biblically accurate angel. Just sort of, absolutely, what the hell am I looking at? What just happened?
I'll say Vaku, as she's looking at you as you make this face, as this figure emerges, as she also finds herself kind of in this, this place. She turns to see what you're looking at, and you see, just in the peripherals, even as you're staring at this figure, you can see Vaku kind of fall to the ground, to her knees. It's quite a distance away, but you can see that she kind of slumps over, and you hear, even amongst just, it's kind of, even in with all the gurgling of the fire that's around you, you can hear just cracking, as you would imagine how loud it would be next to the surface of the sun. You just hear Vaku say, Master, and this voice that, you heard the nightmare, it's this deep voice that kind of surrounded you. This voice that you hear is as if it is within your skull. You are hearing it not because the air around you is vibrating and your eardrums are picking up on it, but because your skull and your body is vibrating at such a frequency that the hammer and the anvil within your ears are just vibrating, so your ears pick up these sounds as words. You hear this voice deep within you, as this figure finally stands up and says, "Silence, Vaku!" And Vaku immediately shuts the fuck up, and just, you can see this figure is now just standing fully. It's probably 500 feet tall, immeasurably tall, but even in just the vastness of the sun is small, but just dwarfs you all incredibly. You have to look up at 45 degrees or even further to see how tall this being is. And it says, after a moment of silence, or not silence, but you get after a moment of not speaking, it says,
what are
yeah,
my
you go
eyes
for it.
doing right now? Because this is the sun. How bright is it? What is the temperature?
I'll say that it at first was just this bright light, but just against the background of, black, it's hard to look up at the head. You almost have to look at the body of this being, just because, to look directly at it would feel like looking directly at the sun. But I'll say that it is, the heat, it is not, if you're, I'm sure Alden, thinking back at this moment, later will think to themselves, wow, I was right next to the sun. You feel like it would be way hotter, but it seems like there is something protecting you against it, right? There's this heat, but it's this heat that you can feel like is incredible, but it's not incredible to the point that you actually would be dead. If you were genuinely where you were, in the real world, but you can feel as if that is happening. But yeah, it's kind of hard to look at this guy's head's son.
Oh.
But it says Vaku, or silence Vaku. And Vaku shuts up and says, after a moment, he says, "This is how you repay me, then." And Vaku says, "Sintong, and the voice once again says, "I said silence." And as he says this, you can see just all across this molten surface of the sun is just these spurts of these sun flares and these fire, erupting into the sky just all across, all around you. Some even getting close to the pillars that you were standing on and kind of erupt to obscure your view of this being for just a moment before it settles back to the ground. And I'll say that it gets the message across that Vaku should stay silent. And this being says, "This is how you repay me, then. I let you stay in my realm as your home was overtaken. And at the moment you get back to it, helped out by mortals no less, you go with some other mortal to a realm of the Order of Sin." And there's this pause, and you almost expect Vaku to respond, but after the past 2 times, there's a moment of pause where you realize, Alden, that Vaku is probably debating on whether to say anything at all. I'll say that the voice, after maybe a good 10 seconds of just silence, do you try and say anything, or are you just...
I'm still
You're just
in
vibing.
awe. You think about Alden's perspective. Can't do any magic. Really hasn't been involved in religion. Less than 2 days ago, he was trying to peddle drugs, and now he's face to face with a god.
He's going through
presumably.
it.
So he's still just his mind is shattered right now, but he's slowly starting to get his bearings, especially now that there's a voice booming through his head. And he's gonna look over at Vaku to see what she's doing.
I'll say that you see Vaku once again still on her knees, and she is actually leaning over on her elbows as well, like she's in this this fetal pose, on her hands and knees, or on her elbows and knees, and you can see her head is just kind of shaking back and forth very quickly, not just this slow shaking, but a freaking out shaking. Yeah, and I'll say that her saying Sintong, based off of just the discussions that have happened, and also her introduction when you first met Vaku, that is the god of stars. That is who is her patron. You surmise that, but Alden's probably not thinking that much about it at that moment, but just for you as a player, you know who Sintong is.
And really briefly, can you remind me? We got beamed into here after the Nightmare said, "I think I know what you're afraid of," and then
yes, the transition was the same smoke kind of transition as when you first went, when you first went to your parents' mansion, and then in that alleyway. So it seems like will Alden think this? Maybe. I mean, it looks like there's a god in front of him, and he's in this place that looks crazy. But, as a player, this seems just part of the Nightmare's vision.
There's
it doesn't
some
seem
sort of roll I can make to get a grip on my situation.
Yeah, just if you're just trying to kind of snap out of it, as it were.
Yeah.
Great question. What kind of roll would you make for that?
Wisdom, maybe?
Yeah, I think.
Or,
yeah, I think. I think religion. It is a wisdom roll, but I think like if you were a higher religion, you would maybe be able to get your bearings a little bit more with coming to face with a god. So I would say religion just to see how you can handle the situation.
Religion.
Okay.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Right.
I'll say that you are obviously still awestruck, but
Yeah.
there's a moment where you're hearing Sintong. You understand that this is a god in front of you, not only a god, but someone who's even above Vaku, right?
Mhm.
And you two things come to your mind. One, you are not the target. It doesn't seem like this being cares about you, or like would care about you. You haven't done anything wrong to Sintog, as it seems like Sintog is speaking to Vaku, and Vaku is having a very visceral reaction to being in this god's presence. But second, I think you would also take just a moment to realize that yes, you have this is probably still not real. It's still like the nightmare, even though it feels crazy real. There's just a bit of you that's saying it's not real, it's not real, this is just the nightmares, like I'm just witnessing something, I'm not actually on the surface of a sun right now, So I think those things, based off your role, giving a little bit of just stature in this moment, but it is still not enough to be like, oh, I could just be like a normal person. Like, it's still
Okay.
tense. Anything could turn bad at any moment. You still have that fear.
Sure.
I'll say that you can see Vaku's kind of just shaking her head, and after not responding to Sintong, after he says that this is how you repay me, Sintong says, I see that you do not wish to respond. The Vaku that I recruited would have. And you see Vaku kind of look up, and she says, Sintong, and just once again just gets caught off and says, but instead of the silence, the being yells, I have made my decision. You are no longer mine. And the giant being begins to just turn as you can see its feet as it's dragging through just the surface of the sun is just causing like these huge just waves of, to call it lava is just not a good word for it, but it's just this molten plasma fire as it's kind of turning around, and you see Vaku stand up and says, no, wait, and you can see she's kind of reaching out her hand, and this gigantic sun flare kind of shoots out in front of Vaku as this being starts to walk away slowly. And you hear Vaku yell out, no, Sintog, please, it was a mistake, I'll do better, and it's just screaming out, and this sun flare that kind of shot out doesn't just dissipate as sun flares normally do, but comes back down and kind of shoots through Vaku, and as it does, you can see that Vaku's robes are just shot off of the body unnaturally, as if it was just phased through her body, as she is now just, essentially a naked like goblin just standing there as her body is just kind of shot through. And as you can see, you look at her and she's looking at herself and she's just screaming at this point. I'm not going to do it, but like you can hear her just yelling at this point, and she's looking down at her hands, and I'll say you notice as her hands, they start to curl up, and her hands start to kind of, as this sunbeam is shooting through her hands, these kind of flakes start to fly off behind her as well, as you can start to see this bone of her hand appear.
What's happening to Alden?
I'll say that, Alden, you are offset enough that everything is happening to the side of you, right? Like
Oh,
you're looking in front and it's just going past you. But do you want to do anything at all? You're like a good 30 feet away, so it's like unless you have
where's my
some crazy.
psyche at right now? Is it a bit more recovered or?
I'll say make another religion roll. It will probably be lower just because of how high you rolled last time. But I'll say
Or
make
I may
another
use
religion roll.
any other result I might use at my hero point.
Let's see. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll say that yeah, it's up to you. You go for it.
I'll use it. I want to see if I can get something higher.
Okay.
Mustard. If it gets lower, that'd be even funnier. But
See? Oh,
yeah,
almost a 19. Almost a 19. I'll say there's a moment where you feel like you can hold your nerve a little bit, but as Vaku's hands and skin and muscle starts to just fly away from her as her hands and her feet like start to become bone, you can see her body start to like it gets on the ground and starts to go into a fetal position. She's just yelling. Your mind is just, I mean, almost terrified probably of just the power of this being that is seemingly stripping away everything from Vaku. And you see her yelling out, and more of her skin is flying back as there's a moment where, uh, even though she is fully a skeleton, you can still hear her screams.
oh my
Is there
god.
is there anything that you do? Just one
Uh,
last time, I'll ask.
all depending on the last roll I was gonna do, I was just gonna go, hey, hey, and then do a card trick to distract her. But
Yeah.
um, because of the results I got, I don't think Alden does anything besides just sort of go, oh my god, you know.
I would do the same thing. What the
Yeah.
fuck? And as you're screaming this, and as Vaku is also screaming, just in the crackling and the just the sound of the sun around, as this giant being is now walking off into the distance. Once again, the mist around you swirls, and as you are brought back, you are standing once again in this
Oh,
vast empty space, and you can see Vaku's on the ground with all of her robes and everything. Not
yeah.
bones, with all her robes and everything, just sitting, laying on the ground, and she's just still yelling out.
Alden projectile vomits.
Not using the spell, just does vomit.
It could be both.
Both at the same time.
Maybe a little bit of acid got
Mm-hmm.
mixed in there or something. So,
Yeah. Body's so used to throwing up acid that it doesn't
yeah,
doesn't just throws up on the ground, and I'll say, uh,
that sucked. It
I'll say,
wasn't real, but that was awful.
I'll say that you as you just scream it and Vaku slowly stops screaming, uh, she kind of starts to move, and you can just hear her audibly sobbing, just crying,
Oh,
as you look at her, and you can see just slowly emerging from the ceiling, once again, the empty cloak that is the nightmare, start to come down,
oh
and
fucking dick.
he says, uh, you hear the deep voice around you. It says, uh, Rosella, Vaku, I did not, I, I can't help it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to show you any of that.
Uh,
It's not.
can I walk over to the
Yeah.
nightmare
Mm-hmm.
and can I sock the cloak as hard as I possibly can in the
Sure.
side of its head?
Sure.
Uh,
Give me an attack roll.
or I need to figure out how to make it. I'll just roll the attack. Um, yeah, just an unarmed strike, a punch.
Plus 13.
30 20.
Barely meeting the AC, or just meeting
Oof.
the AC. you, uh, as you're starting to go for a punch, you can see that the cloak is kind of looking down at Vaku as it's trying to explain itself. I didn't want to do this, all these kinds of things. As you just start to walk up and you pull back your fist, and as you go to a punch for the head, you're kind of expecting, I mean, it's a cloak, right? You're kind of
Yeah.
expecting just to hit cloth, and like maybe as if you were punching just like a hanging sheet in the air, like a curtain. But as you do, your fist makes contact with something solid, as if there was a head there, and you punch and you roll damage for me.
All right. Let's see. 1d. Wow. 8
Okay,
damage.
8 damage. That's max damage. As you just sock in the head, the cloak kind of does, for whatever reason, the only visual in my head is, when you defeat Bowser in like Super Mario Galaxy, it does like a flip in midair. Like, I don't know why that's the
Oh my
only
god.
visual I have in my head, but like kind of flips, does this flip with the cape, flies through the air. As it flies back, and you see the cloak shake its head and says, "I," uh, and you there's a moment where the voice kind of sounds like, "Hey, why'd you do that?" But it has this like, "Hey, I'm I probably deserved that, Vaku. I'm really sorry. I didn't." Uh, and Vaku now, who's like kind of standing, who's kind of sitting up next to you now, says, uh, "Sime, please just shut up right now." And uh, the cloak says, uh, yeah, I will." And Vaku, you can hear her. She's just kind of like still crying, like, involuntarily still just letting out these crying sounds. And you see Vaku just starts to get up and starts leaving towards the exit after you came
Well,
up, kind of socked the guy. What do you do?
I I say, can I get that bracelet?
She already got the bracelet.
Oh, she did, yeah. And
Yeah,
then so the cloak's watching her go.
yeah, just kind of standing, maybe 5 feet in front of
Uh
you.
I I faint it like I say, "Hey." I go, "Hey." And then I pretend I like get ready to throw another punch
Mm-hmm.
and see if he
Mm-hmm.
flinches.
I'll say that the cloak kind of moves back a foot or two. Doesn't seem like doesn't seem like it's gonna retaliate.
And I go, "Two's for flinching," and I punch him twice.
Alright, like two attack rolls.
Actually, no. I just say, "Bitch," and then I walk the other way.
The voice does not say anything as you see Vaku starting to leave towards the light that you can see, and now it appears like Vaku can also see as well. Uh, you start to exit. Do you try and catch up with her, or are you kind of walking at the same pace?
Walk at the same pace. I'll meet her
Okay.
outside.
Yeah, I'll say that you start to get out to the what's the word? The exit. That's what I'm thinking of the
Yeah.
exit or entrance of the cave. As you start to walk there, you once again there's just this kind of thin snow on the ground, and as you exit, there is just a little bit of light coming from the east. It appears, based off the time, it was evening time the last time that you entered here with Vaku. It looks like it may be very like early morning because you're on like a top of a mountain, so it's probably like 4 or 5 in the morning. And I'll say that as soon as you enter this area, you think of to what day it is
Hmm.
in your head, and you know it is the next day, just for your
God damn. So we were
references.
in there.
And,
Oof.
yeah, for like 12 hours maybe, or
All
maybe
right.
yeah, around that, maybe a little bit less, but yeah. But you can see that Baku is just kind of standing towards the edge of the lip.
I
And it's
walk
kind
up
of
to
just
her
standing there. Yeah, you go.
and I sort of just without looking at her go, "Yeah, I told you it was torture."
She's still kind of sniffling to herself, and she says, "That." She says, make sure I get the name right. She says that Simon's such a fool, you know. Of course, he followed that fucking whatever it was, whatever this beast was. You know, now he's in there and he's stuck in there and he has this dumb cloak that makes you see the worst things, and it seems like she's just kind of talking to herself, not talking really to you, but she's just uh, damning everything basically.
Yeah. I just sort of listen and
Hmm.
wait for a pause,
Hmm.
and then I ask, "So why is that bracelet so important?"
Uh, I'll say that we'll get to what your question is, but I'll say she'll like just to role play it a little bit. I'll say that her continuing what she says is she says, and I didn't even, you know, uh, even though Syme, that nightmare Syme was saying it's correct. I didn't even really want to go. I just went because Syme wanted to, and here I am, and I'm just stuck being the Sunlight Witch, and now he's stuck in there, and I just wanted to make him happy, and his foolish decision made him go back there. Now he's got this cloak on him, and he's just she kind of trails off, and you ask your question. She says, she kind of looks up to you, Alden. She says, "Have you ever been in love, Alden?"
Alden, no. Many have loved me, but myself, no.
She says, well, when you found someone that you love, and they're gone from you suddenly, there are things that you wish that you could. There's things that remind you of them, things that you hold on to, and that bracelet. Her, she kind of, she says that bracelet, but then she pulls out and she says, "This bracelet is one of those things, and it joys me that he is alive, but it pains me that he's stuck in there, and not only just stuck in a cave, but stuck in an awful, awful realm."
Hmm. Well, maybe becoming the Sunlight Witch, you know, now that you know he's alive, maybe you can have that god help you out, try to get him free, maybe. Uh, or, you could find someone naughty, send them down there, make them wear the cloak. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, it's awful. It's terrible.
And she kind of sniffles a little bit, and she says, "You you may be onto something, Alden. There may be a way that I can actually get him out of there. Now that I think about it." She kind of looks up at you, and you can see her eyes are fucking red, and like just all around
Uh,
her eyes, and just like kind of some snot is coming out of her nose. She looks like she is really fucking crying. And she, especially like on it's cold, up in the mountains, it's probably uh, even worse. But she says, "Alden, will you help me with one last thing?"
uh, I I suppose, but can I have something from your little menagerie of trinkets up there in return. I have been here for a while now, and quite frankly, I've vomited several times. Rather tired of it, so.
Says, you can take one thing. In fact, let's go up there now. How about this? She kind of looks at you and she says, for helping me get this bracelet, you could take one thing from my collection. And what was it that you wanted earlier for the bracelet? Something with tents?
Oh yes, I completely forgot about that. The whole god thing really stunted my memory. Uh yes, I need your help burning something to the ground. So if you have, I don't know, some sort of device where I can summon you or a way to contact you instantaneously, I'll summon you at the right moment so you can unleash the sun's righteous fury on some foul ne'er-do-wells. Uh Yeah, just when the time is right.
She says, well, I may have something like that. Uh, well, if you agree to help me, can I give you, like, you get one thing, and she kind of pauses for a second. She says, "What, what is it with these tents? What did they do that was so bad?"
Um, well, it's a long story, and basically, they are robbing people blind by providing subpar entertainment and lies to the populace, and they need to be stopped because they are evil and just no good, and they wronged me. Um, so just burning down the tents, destroying their place of business, just is the right thing to do.
Give me a diplomacy check for me.
All right.
How convincing
Oh
you can be.
please, please, oh please.
Oh God,
That
please.
one. God, please.
Oh, hey,
Oh
that's
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
She says, okay, as long as you're just burning down some tents and not killing lots of people, because that doesn't seem
No, no,
too
nothing
bad.
like that. Nothing like
Doesn't.
that.
Oh, she kind of nods and she says, "Okay, well, I feel better about accepting it then. Then how about if you help me with this one last thing? We'll go up. You can get your one item. I think I have something that I can give you that can that you can." I just had a thought. She says, I think there's something I can give you that you can contact me when needed. And if you just help me one more time, then I'll send you on your way back to wherever you want to go."
All right, deal. Sounds like a plan. I'm in. Yep.
She kind of shakily stands up and she says, "Okay, well, let's get back up there." And she does once again does her wavy hand things, and a light beam of light shoots up from the straight up in the sky, even though the sun is nowhere there, and reflects off of her up back towards the mountain. And you two, she goes in first, and you both go up to the top. And let me activate that scene then.
Wow. Woo.
I'll say, ooh, let me actually move the light over here. It's not actually a representative of what it looks like, but let me. Sorry, unpause. Sorry, forgot about that. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Bro, get a grip.
I'll say, as you get back up, it's kind of dimly lit in the room, but you once again can see all the knickknacks that you had here. And she says, "Well, we're gonna have to be getting going soon for you to help me, but you get to choose your item while I go and get the thing
Oh,
for you to contact me. And
really quickly, can I get a
she
brief
says
rundown of what some of these do?
she says, sure. What are you curious about?
Uh, Mostly all of them, but in particular, the Rainbow Bowl, the the plate of little round red things, and that yellow orty over there.
She says, well, this liquid that you see in front of you is uh, actually never came up with a name for it. She says, I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but there's a reservoir up on the northwest of Sumia in the Qatar Plains that houses just a pool of this stuff. So I collected some of it. It seems to permanently stain whatever it touches. I don't really know what it's about, but I just think it's very fascinating.
Hmm. So I can get it elsewhere. It's not really exclusive to here.
She says, I've only ever seen it in one pool, but yeah,
Yeah.
you could get it from that pool if you ever traveled there.
All right. Yeah, I'm curious. What about the little yellow crane bird
She
paper?
says, this is, oh, actually, given the time, it's actually not there.
Oh.
You start to walk and go there, and she says, oh, who's normally there? Well, she kind of starts to look around, and I'll say on top of this bookshelf towards the south, kind of 40 feet up, you see the yellow bird kind of sitting up there, and she says, "Oh, well, there he is. Oh, I forgot his name.
Wasn't it Silo?
I think it was Silo. We'll go with that because I made it up on the spot. You're right. Actually, I have a thing of names, but yeah. Uh, she says, "Oh, there's Silo. Uh, up there, it's this little bird that's seemed to just be animated. I'm not entirely sure by what means, but he seems to like me. It's a piece of paper and doesn't really need feeding, but likes to stay up here. I found him cowering in a corner once the Yetis were here, uh, behind one of the
Hmm.
bookshelves, but he seems to be much happier now that he has his little perch and he can fly around if he needs to. But yeah, he's just a fun little
Hmm.
guy. To be honest with you, I don't really want to get rid of him. You can take the other things, but not that.
All right. For brevity's sake, can we
Oh,
just pretend that we're going around the room asking about these different things?
sure,
Um, what so like just what item does which thing?
sure. So
Uh,
this, I'll say that this is this rope in the top. We'll just go top down on the left side.
yeah.
This rope on the top, she says, is something that she animated. It's one of the very first kind of spells that she was able to cast as Vaku, the Sunlight Witch, and so it's an animated rope that does her bidding.
Hmm.
She doesn't know if she can transfer it to you. She's never tried that, but that's something. This was like a pool of like this water, and she says that this is, uh, excuse me, she kind of lifts up the edge of it, and you can see it's almost like this really thin, like it's as if it was like a thin piece of plastic or like a thin
Huh.
piece of metal. It's like this rigid oval. And she says, this one's a curiosity. It's this portal to almost a place with infinite water. I've only stuck my head in there a few times and I can't really see anything else besides it but water around me. So it's kind of odd, but I like it because if I ever need to get something wet, I can just dip it in here and don't have to worry about it.
Hmm.
Uh, she says that this is a plant that she found in the Yimba wilds that was just uh, eating bugs around it. And she says, "Oh, actually," and she kind of goes over to this shelf and finds this little jar of bugs and kind of feeds it to it. And instead of like a Venus flytrap, which kind of has this close, slow constricting thing, this Venus flytrap looking plant just quickly chomps. Just as
Chomps.
soon as you
Like
just
a
throw it in, she says,
piranha plant.
"Yeah, exactly." And she was like, I wouldn't stick my hand in there if I were you." And she comes
Mm.
on over and she looks at these plate and she says, "These little candies uh, make you small uh, for a short period of time. You can get probably." She's like, "Whenever I had it, I was probably only like an inch tall, which was fascinating, and I was concerned it was going to be forever, but after about 10 minutes, it kind of faded off."
Okay.
And then on to the other side, we already talked about the colored. Uh,
Yeah.
she she talks to the big globe that had like the ship in it, and she
Sure.
says, "This is actually something I won. Funnily enough, this is actually something I won off of the person that we're going to go and meet soon to try and collect something from. This is from Captain Myers. It's apparently a ship that he once had that he had shrunk down." Uh, and she kind of looks in and she kind of taps on the glass to make the ship turn towards wall, and she says, "But I think those are actual real people with real lives on there, so I don't try and think about it too
Yeah.
much." And then she comes over here and she says, uh, "Oh, yes, we like to keep this covered because if the sludge sees anything, it starts to kind of chase after it, and I haven't found a good way of containing it. It's quite a violent creature." And she kind of lifts up a corner, and you can see that red pulsating light again. And she says, "This is a red sludge. I know that they come in various colors, but uh, yeah, I just have it in a glass ball for now. Its previous glass enclosure was obviously broken by the Yetis, but at some point I'll get something that can contain it and it doesn't instantly knock it over and roll around in it. Because if this thing got loose, it would be pretty bad." And
Hmm.
I'll say, as you've been talking to her about it, you can tell her mood has certainly lightened up. She seems to, this has certainly helped her in terms of just dealing with the fact that she just went through this, these terrible nightmare scenarios, and she's able to talk about something that she's obviously very passionate about.
Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. The one I like the most is are tiny candies, but it's limited, so I'm kind of wary about. You said an inch. That'd be pretty useful for like spying
Hmm.
and stuff. I say I like those candies. Those little things that make you small.
She says,
I
"Yeah,
really don't
they're
know
good
what
fun."
I really don't know what the rainbow liquid would do besides wanton vandalism and maybe dyeing skin or something like that. Um, the animated rope, you said you're not sure if you can transfer it over or
Says, I've become much more astute with magic since then, so I
uh
I wouldn't say I couldn't, but I certainly don't know."
Alden thinks that boy, wouldn't that be a neat trick, Oh, I have this
Mm.
animated rope that obeys my every will. That's pretty magical.
Hmm.
I shrink down, someone could just step on me and kill me instantly. Uh so he's gonna say, can we try transferring the rope property over?
She
Kind of like
says,
that.
"Sure, yeah, it's a little bit of a sentimental value, but I understand. I mean, I think that."
Alden doesn't care. Um, he doesn't say that out
She's kind
loud,
of,
but
yeah,
he just
she's kind of muttering to herself as she's walking over, but she says,
yeah.
"I did say anything, so here, I'll let you have this." And she's kind of puts her hand out uh, towards the rope, and it starts to kind of slither and go around her arm as it starts to go up,
Mm.
and you can see that this rope is probably like an inch in diameter, and it's like, trying to think visually because I just have it in my head, like 4 feet long. that
Okay.
long, like a little bit a foot longer than a yardstick, a little bit over a meter. And
Yeah.
it kind of, wraps up around her arm.
Wait, wait.
She says, yes.
I didn't realize how short it is. I want the candies.
She says, oh, well, okay, back on you go, buddy. And it starts to kind of slowly unwrap, and she says, well, do you want all the candies?
Preferably, yes.
She kind of tilts her head, and she said, would you be fine with like half?
How about 2/3?
She kind of glances at, give me a diplomacy check.
I did kill the Yetis and I did go
Yeah.
down there and I did stay by you while you went through that horrible experience, so
Yes, you're right. You're right. Oh, almost a
okay, that's
natural one.
12.
Yeah. But she says, well, we'll do roughly 2/3. How about 60%? How's
Oh,
that sound?
fine, I can
Uh,
settle.
okay. And uh, I didn't write how many. I said a plate sized of things that are like cherries. So I'm trying to think how
Sure.
many of that would be. I'll say you'll get I'll say you'll get 40 of these
Oh my,
things.
oh boy,
It's a lot. So you
that's a
get,
lot. Yeah,
and the way she
Jesus.
described it is that you were an inch tall for about 10 minutes eating them.
Yeah, so that's 400 minutes. Damn.
And so yeah, so she says, give. She doesn't say anything. She says, okay, here you are. Here's 40 candies. I think you'll have a fun time. It can be a fun trick, or I don't know what kind of adventures you go on, but it's a fun time.
All right, I'm making the item in my inventory.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah, I'll add the description and everything, and make it a consumable item and things like that
Okay.
to
I just call them shrink candies.
shrink candies.
That's fucking hilarious. Can't wait to use those.
It's gonna be fucking crazy. Pull
Okay.
those out.
Yeah. Um. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Can't wait to use these. There's many a skirt to look up now.
Say that
But
out loud.
I'm. I say it jokingly.
Mhm.
Uh. But
She kind of does one
you
of those like fake laughs, like, aha, yeah.
uh,
Uh,
yeah.
ooh.
I just do.
Uh,
Um. I I see this as a way to save money. I buy one beer and then I want to make it last over, the course of, you know, much longer. So I just sort of shrink down and drink as much as I can while I'm small and, you know what I mean? Just sort of like get sloshed a lot more easily, but
She kind of like shakes her head as she's looking at you. She says, your mind works in very interesting ways, Alden. That is one way of using it."
yep, I'm a genius.
She's walks over to one of the shelves and pulls off what looks like a semi hemisphere, like half of a sphere stone, and she kind of walks over to you and she says, "This is something that you could use. It's this sound transferring stone thing. I'm not entirely sure they have them in this one specific town in the Qatar Plains that I've got from, but if you activate it," and she's kind of looking at it, and you can see that somewhere on it, she says, "Ah," and she presses it, and suddenly this half of the stone kind of just kind of dully glows a little bit. This kind of
Mm,
light. Uh, let me actually just real quick. This light, or no, this kind of this dark gray color. It starts to glow and kind of pulse a little bit, and she says, "And if you," and she kind of hands it to you, and then she starts to walk back over to the shelf. She says, "If you speak into this, I'll be able to hear it out of this end." And she goes to the shelf, and there's another half of a semisphere. And do you try and speak into it?
Hello.
You can hear, you know, almost like across the room, as if it was like a phone call. You hear you, like maybe a second later, you hear hello, like this kind of distorted small voice.
Uh,
Uh, and
well,
she
thank
says,
you.
you hear a second later, and she
Uh,
says, I spend a lot of time down here, so it's not guaranteed that I'll hear it right away, but if you keep talking into it for probably a good minute, I'll try and keep it around until you ask for your favor. When do you think that you'll use it?
hopefully within the next couple of days. I'm not really sure how long it's
She
gonna take me to get back, but you know.
she says, okay, well then that's fine. I'll keep it around me for next few days, waiting for your notification to, I guess, burn down some tents.
Yep.
And she kind of sets it back on the shelf. And she says, well, Alden, what I want from you is, uh, what I want from you is this. And she says, I saw your card tricks earlier, and so I'd imagine you're pretty good with sleight of hand, yes?
Uh, well, yes. To be a master in illusion magic such as myself, you have to be. And let's check my stat to see if that's a lie.
Your your games check is a +9.
Uh, and thievery is +6, so
So I'd say you're pretty good at it.
adept. Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty good at it. I'll say that she says, well, good. What I'm looking for, I played a gambling game or a betting game with someone named Captain Myers. He is the god of pirateering. Have you ever heard of him?
Have I?
And
I don't think so,
I'll
no.
say no. You haven't been near pirates nor the coast to have heard
No,
of.
I don't even know what a pirate is, to be honest.
Says, well, it's someone who likes to steal from other people out in the Quaz Ocean. Well, I guess it could be any ocean, but there's really only one. And she says, I played a betting game with him, and I lost the item that I'm looking for that I think can help get Syme out of that cave. And I'm not very good at these betting games. I was wondering if you would help me by playing him in it for the game. There's no downside in it for you. If you lose, she kind of like pauses for a moment. She's like, I'll try and find another way, but I think this is the best bet for me getting Syme out of here.
That can make a god look foolish, is what you're saying?
She says, you can think of it like that, yes?
Hmm. That really adds to the resume. I'm in.
She says, well, great. Well, let us. She looks around and she walks over to one of the shelves and you see on this shelf there are just a whole bunch of shot glasses essentially with this black liquid within them, just like 3 rows of them, and they're like
Yeah.
this like 20 feet long shelves, so it's like very a lot of them. And she says, well, uh, time to take to a trip to Zua's lounge. Just so you know, this is going to be a rowdy place, but kind of tilts her head. She says, I think you're going to like it.
Oh, I think I might.
And you see her take a shot. of this liquid essentially, and she goes like, oh, and then her body just disappears, just vanishes.
Oh. Uh, hello?
Don't
Anyone
get any
here?
response. You don't get any response.
Um, okay. Hang on. Uh, I have a water skin. I have two water skins actually. Um, I'm gonna dump one out. I'm gonna rush over to the bowl of rainbow liquid,
Okay.
and I'm gonna like gingerly tip some of the liquid into my
Mm-hmm.
water skin, trying to avoid it getting on me.
Then I will uh, say, give me. Hmm, So give me a give me
I
a
could do a
craft.
straight dex roll. Oh,
Give me a crafting check, dude.
crafting check.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
damn.
being delicate with this. Trying to build something up. I feel like that's something you would do in crafting. Excuse me. Nice.
Dude,
Then
imagine if I mine.
I'll say that you. That's so stupid. I'll say as you kind of dip it in, you don't get anything on yourself, but as you start to raise it up, you notice that your water skin is now also like partially this red and yellow and green and blue swirls on it as you pull it out. It seems like
No,
your water skin is also stained.
that's fine. At least I know which one's which now.
Don't
Um,
accidentally drink the permanently
yeah.
staining liquid.
Oh, yeah. You go, oh, okay. And then I run back over, putting that away,
Okay.
and take a drink from the shot glass she picked up.
Right, awesome. As soon as you drink this, it is this fucking awful taste. It's like this.
Okay.
It's like it's like thicker than you expect. It's like maple syrup, like not heated up
Oh,
maple syrup. It's like thicker than you
God.
expect it, and it's like it
Corn
goes
syrup?
down.
Oh,
Yeah, it goes down really harsh. It does not taste good, and it tastes like this really almost like is imagine if you just put dirt in your mouth, that kind of taste. Like it's this weird
that is
dirt taste.
awful.
Yeah, it's you like her reaction was like, oh, but it seems like she's done it before because it probably fucking sucks for you to swallow it
Yeah.
down. But you get it down and you're just like, oh fuck, that's awful. And you kind of closing your eyes as you do it, and you open up your eyes, and you are suddenly in this. You are in this on the quiet mountaintop. You are suddenly within this place that I haven't built out in Foundry, but we're just gonna have to theater of the mind it. You are
Hmm.
within this kind of small little cave area, and you see in front of you are these two torches along the wall, as you see just kind of this stone archway that continues on, and through the room you can see kind of these flashing lights as there's this music playing. It's this very drum filled music, like not a lot of guitars or strings or horns or anything. It's this very percussion based music,
Yeah.
drum and bass kind of music, very deep. And you can hear it coming from within. There's these flashing of these like blue and like white lights from within. Let me make sure something.
Hanukkah.
Yeah, like these orange and white lights are kind of flashing within, and you uh, see that Vaku is kind of standing in the archway, and she was like, "I was waiting for you. What took you so long?"
The drink was terrible.
She says, "Yes, it smells pretty bad, tastes pretty bad, but you get used to it. Come on in."
All right.
And she says, "Welcome to Zua's Lounge. And as you walk in, the music is a little bit louder. It's not like overpowering, it's kind of in the background. And you can see that the lights, the flashing lights that you are seeing, is just with along the ceiling is just these kind of just streaks of white and orange light are just crossing the top, and that appears to be lighting the room. There are no more torches within,
Mm.
but I can't put, the best way I can describe what you walk into is imagine uh what's the bar on Tatooine?
Moss Cantina.
Yep,
Well, not.
cantina, the canteen. Yeah, yeah. When
Yeah.
walking in, it's like that. You walked into a place where every single individual you see is one dressed or one either dressed in some weird way or is some weird way. It is not. Many of them are not, humanoid in shape. There are people and creatures that some are frightening to look at that you have to look at for a moment and then just look away from. Some are more just kind of these normal looking people, but like one, for instance, as you were looking at them, uh, maybe they glance towards you and then their
Mm.
head kind of spins for just a moment and they were wearing this happy face, but now their head just 180s and now it's like this angry face looking at you and you almost have to look
God,
away.
great.
That'd be like, what the fuck? Like this is a
Yeah.
crazy place that you've entered into. And Vaku is kind of walking through and she's looking back and she says, "Come on, we need to be quick. We need to get to. I think I know where Captain Myers is." And do you follow
All right,
along?
all right. I'm right behind you. Yes.
Yeah, you're just looking through, and you can see that there are within the center of this large room. There's like tables around that people are sitting at. People are standing against the walls talking to one another as this music is playing. You can see in the center of the room is this large, circular bar where within the middle of it you see what looks to be this, you know, probably 10-foot tall, like large. The best way of putting it is like an octopus, but instead of having like 8 legs or whatever, like it has, dozens of tentacles that is just, pouring
Yeah.
out various drinks into glasses. Just it seems to be the center of this
It,
bar. And it doesn't seem to be have an eye or face at all either. It just is this glob in the middle, or this mass of flesh. Anyway, as you're walking along, it is overstimulating to say the least as you're walking through here. But as you walk to, you start to veer off to the left, and you see that there's this table with, if you heard Captain Myers, God of Pirateering, and you know in any way that it is to do with the
sure.
sea, you start to walk towards this table, and it seems like this is the table you're looking for. You see in front of you there is uh, what looks to be just this large 6 foot burly, most pirate motherfucking pirate you've ever seen, like
Yeah.
Blackbeard. It's got the braids and the beard. It's got the big fucking way too big hat with a pirate skull on the front of it.
You have a hook.
Wearing, yeah, a little, no hook, but does have an eye patch, and wearing this big black cloak and just sitting and just holding on to a giant tankard of what seems to be some kind of liquid, and is just drinking it down. You can see that there's some drink spilling into his beard, and you see across this table are what looks to be kind of lesser versions of this person, like like not copies. That's the wrong way of putting it, but like other pirates, but are almost like smaller in stature. They're like miniature, like versions of, like, if you shrunk a person like maybe 10%, they look like 4 feet tall versions of pirates, and they're all around and they're all like laughing and having a
Jesus.
good time.
Oh, I
And
hate this.
and you see this guy and he looks up towards Vaku and he says, "Why, Vaku, I haven't seen you in such a
Oh
long time.
God. Oh
What,
God.
what are you doing here? You're looking more beautiful than ever, I'll say." And you just, Vaku kind of stops and she says, "No, I don't. Uh, I thank you. Hi, Captain Myers. I'm not here to have another long night here." And he says, "Oh, why not spend some time?" And he kind of glances at you, and he says, "Oh well, who's this? Who have you brought here, Vaku?" And he's kind of just staring at you. And Vaku kind of starts to turn to introduce you, but do you say anything?
Uh, I don't say shit. I'm still overwhelmed by what's around me, and I go, "Hello, I'm." Yeah, I just kind of let her speak.
She says, "This is Alden. Uh, he's a," and the pirate Captain Myers kind of cuts him off, and he stands up, and you see that he's like 6.5 feet tall. The big burly dude, like very wide, but uh, not like fat, just large, thick person. Stands
Yeah.
up and says, "You're a mortal. Well, I don't meet many mortals these days, but," and he kind of starts to walk around, and you can see that he's limping, and it looks like he has a peg leg. And he walks up and he reaches out his hand and he says, "I'm Captain Myers, god of pirateering. It is nice to meet you, Alden. What brings you here?"
I'm here to play a game against you for an item, I think.
He
An
raises
item of
eyebrows.
Vaku's choice.
He looks at Vaku and he says, "Ah, you've come back for one of your items that you lost to me. Well, that's just splendid. Come, sit, Alden, let's have a drink." And Vaku, he kind of he is gesturing you to come over. Vaku's like, "Oh no, we're just here for a drink." And he says, "No," or for the game. And he says, "Nonsense. We have to get a little bit of alcohol in you, aren't don't we? Well, I mean, do you want alcohol or do you want something?" He kind of peers at you a little bit stronger, Alden.
Oh, hmm. Alden's thinking. It's come full circle. Uh, if there was a better time to prove that Obot is the drug that's going to take over the world, then what better option to give it to a god? And I say, well, what do they have at the bar?
And he says, "Come over here, sit. I know exactly what you would want if you want a little something a little bit stronger."
Well, I'm trying to make something a bit specific. Is it kind of like a cosmic deal where I go up there and I can order any drink I want, or is it really just limited to alcohol? Or
He kind of shakes his head and he says, "I don't know what you mean, laddie. They really only have alcohol here. That's the only reason why you would
oh,
have here."
all right. Well, uh, I forgot. What did I do with those 10 vials of Obot?
Uh,
Didn't I give them to
you
somebody?
you have one of them, I'm pretty sure, and I think you gave the rest to Bo.
Okay. Well, I'd say, well, hang on. I have something here. I'll have a drink if you try this. And I and if you like it, I want your endorsement.
He he. Uh, are you like standing by him? Are you sitting with him? Or are you
I
just kind of
imagine we're
standing?
still by the table a little bit.
Yeah. He says, "Well, come give me a closer look, lad. I need to look at it. What is it? What do you call it?"
It's what do I call it? It's a cocktail of my own design that I collaborated to make with a few compatriots back in the mortal realm. I'm trying to get it in circulation and if I can get a god to say, "Oh, it's pretty good," that'd be really that'd be a way to sell it. So,
And he kind of laughs and he says, "Oh, well, if you're going to get any endorsement from any god, might as well be a pirate, eh?"
I arg, arg, arg.
He says, "I do say things like that, don't I? Well, come and sit down. I'll get you a drink." And he kind of uh, he kind of calls out and he says, "Big Z, I'm going to need a couple shots of tar over here, please."
R. Oh my god. All
And he
right.
kind of slams his hand on the table and he says, Come sit down. And Vaku once again is like, no, we really here. And he says, oh, Vaku, please. You have the time. We all know it. We all have all the time.
What is tar? I've never heard of tar. I thought you guys drink rum
He says, well, that's what all the mortals,
or
pirates
grog.
drink. That's what all the mortal pirates drink, but here in Zua's Lounge they have a specialty called tar. It's only found in the deepest caverns of Sumia. Some even say that it was put by the god of sin himself. And he kind of
Oh.
raises his eyebrows at you.
All right. Well, I'm willing to try it.
He says, it's quite a substance. And he kind of looks at the vial that you have, and he says, so tell me, what about it? Do you have a name for it? Yes, if I approve, then maybe you can tell me how to make it, and I can push some of the recipes to some of my pirates. He's kind of raising an eyebrow at
Sorry.
you.
I have to say this recipe needs to be confidential. I'm really, just trying to get it started, and I'll cut. Yeah. All right. I don't have a name for it yet. I think I just kind of call it like, yeah. So, but maybe what's your name again? I'm sorry.
He says, Captain Myers.
Let's call it Myers Brew. How about that? We call it Myers Brew.
His eyebrows go high up, and he looks at you and he says, that's a glad. And he slaps you in the back. He says, Myers Brew. That's such a fantastic idea. I never thought of naming a drink after myself. That's such a good idea. I'll call it Myers Brew. And I'm already liking it a little bit. And he kind of elbows you. He says, well, what is in Myers Brew? You said to keep it a secret. Well, how am I going to make it? How are my pirates out on the sea going to make it?
Well, the I mean, I'll make it for you. I just need to get the production up off the ground. It's sort of a local thing right now. But I think I could expand the operation and pitch it to sailors, perhaps. But you know, uh,
He kind of raises one eyebrow at you and give me a diplomacy check for me.
all right. Uh, I clicked out of me.
Yeah?
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
What you roll?
12 total. That was roll a 7 plus 5.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I just got me a Guinness because this voice fucking hurts my throat. Need some liquid to loosen up the gullet. He kind of raises an eyebrow at you and he says, well, and how big is your current operation then, Alden?
It's me and one other person, and I think that person is dead. So pretty small.
He kind of
Listen,
laughs
man,
out.
I'll level with you. I
He
really
says,
just want the credit for this. It was my idea. I tried to push it out so I could, kneecap some rivals. It would suck to just sort of, not get any of the benefits of spreading it around. So if there's some way I could, I don't know, receive some sort of cred
he says,
from
well,
spreading this.
why not call it Alden's Brew?
That's yeah. Actually, yeah. Why didn't I think of that? Yeah. Uh,
See, we're already
let's make
acting like business partners already.
let's make an anagram of our names. Uh, Almayer's Brew. How about that?
Allmeyer's Brew. He kind of takes a step back, or he kind of sits back a little bit in his chair. He says, I kind of like the sound of that, lad. And he says, I'll drink to it. And just as that, you get 3 shots put or no, not 3 shots, excuse me, sorry. You get a big tankard put down, and what looks within looks like this, excuse me, this kind of this dark orange, black, kind of swirled liquid within. And even as it's put down, it seems to be just this slight swirl to it as it is set in front of you. And he says, well, how about this? You take a sip of your tar, and I'll take a sip of our All Myers brew, and we'll start this partnership. How's that sound, Alden?
Hang on. Yeah. Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
Uh,
Can you
he
hear me?
kind of, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Cheers to that. And I
Uh,
give it a click, and I say, "Go have some. Go ahead.
yep, and
Drink it all up."
he just straight down the gullet, and I'll say as you drink your first sip of tar, can you give me a fortitude check for me?
Sure. Okay.
It goes down smooth, much better than whatever the shot is you took last time. But the taste, the taste that you get is it's a nice taste. It's a simple flavor. The only flavor that you get is whatever within Alden invokes the feeling of it feels wrong to drink this.
Okay. I kind of look down and go, what is this?
He says, well, that laddie is tar. It means,
Yeah,
or, yes?
but like, I don't know. Something's off.
He
It's
says,
not like drinking beer or wine or something. It just sort of has me on edge.
yeah, he kind of laughs and he says, that's how it's supposed to make you feel there, lad. It's not
Okay.
exactly it's gonna make, don't worry, it'll hit you a little bit, but you'll get used to it and you'll know that, maybe you're not supposed to be drinking it, but that's what's the fun in it. And he's kind of smiling
Okay.
at you. And he kind of,
Uh,
as he says, now with your drink, well, sorry, our drink, the All Myers brew, well, that's quite a nice fruity flavor, and there's a little bit of lemon in there. Is that it?
uh,
You know us
yeah.
pirates need our vitamin C.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about the whole scurvy thing. Yeah, there's some lemon juice in there. It's sort of the core flavor, as well as some sugar. And then the rest is sort of the special ingredient that, you know, kind of puts you at ease, I'd say. It sort of puts you at ease.
And you can see Myers kind of sits back, and he says, "Put you at ease, eh? Well, I like the sound of that. Some of my pirates are quite riling." And he kind of looks around, looks at the other pirates at the table, and you look over, and two of them are currently like bickering over one another, and like are almost at like at hands with one another, and they're very loud and boisterous. And he says, so maybe a little bit of calming down would be nice. Well, if you, Alden, I'll be on the lookout for you. If you ever visit a port and you ever visit any pirate, just invoke my name, and maybe you can give him some of the substance so we can start this, or some of the brew so we can start this transaction occurring. How's that sound?
That sounds good to me.
And he's kind of sitting back, and Vaku pipes in, who's kind of just been standing there. She says, "Well, after you both have had a drink, is there any way we can get back that item?" And he says, "Yes, sure, Vaku. Yes, we've had a drink. We've had some chat. What is it that you need back from me?" And he kind of sits towards Vaku, or he kind of leans forward, son Vaku, and Vaku says, well, I'm going to need one of your anchors. And Captain Myers kind of leans back and says, "One of my anchors? Well, which one? You've lost many to me." And Vaku says, "I need a Sumia anchor, please. Uh, I'd like to play you for a Sumia anchor." And he says, "A Sumia anchor? Well, that's a pretty good one, but you know the rules about trying to get back something that you've already lost." And Vaku says, "Yes, I know. If we lose, then I don't get it ever. I can never get it back again. But if I win, then I get it." And Captain Myers has a big smile on his face, and he says, "Yes, absolutely." And he kind of looks over you and says, "Can't you tell that she's lost quite a good deal to me?" And Vaku kind of like smacks him on the shoulder and says, "Don't say that. I've won some." And Captain Myers kind of lets out a hearty chuckle, and he says, "Well, I'd be willing to play you, if Alden, if you'd like to watch." And kind of looks at you and do you say anything?
I sort of pipe up and go, well, didn't Vaku, you said you wanted me to play, yes? Or,
Yeah, and Vaku's nodding her head, and Captain Myers says, "Oh, yes, you're right. Well, you're supposed to be playing me. Well," he kind of slams down his tankard and he says, "Well, it's a good thing we've been buddy-buddy. Would you like to play a game?"
yeah, sure, yeah.
He says, "Well, let me think." He says, "I got just quite the game for you." And he says, "This is one of my favorite games. Vaku's not very good at it." And he kind of laughs and he says, "But maybe he'll be a little bit better so you can get back whatever you need the Sumia anchor for." And he says, "The game we like to play out on the open seas." And he kind of looks back and forth and he leans towards you and he says, "You want to know the name of it?"
Sure.
He kind of looks back and forth and he says, "We call it out on the seas Flippin' Pussy." Huh? And he kind of looks at with you these big eyes and he has this big smile on his face.
Alden, again, I refer you to that picture I sent earlier, that drawing. Just sort of like, I see. I can get behind something like that.
he says
I don't really.
he says,
Is
"Oh,
does
it's
it
it's
involve cats or something?
he
But
says, "Oh, it's pirate humor. Yes, it involves something to do with cats. You see, it's this." And he kind of reaches in his pocket and he puts down a coin. And he says, "You see, here is we each have 9 lives, just like a cat. You see, that's where the name comes from." And he says, "We're both going to predict what head or what face our coin is going to be when we flip it. And then we're going to reveal it." And he's kind of leaning in as he's talking to you. And he says, "We're going to reveal it. If we both get it right, we both drink as a celebration. If one of us gets it
okay.
right, the other one loses a life. If both of us get it wrong, then the next round is worth an extra life. That makes sense?"
Uh, yeah, I'm following. Yeah.
And he
So
says,
to repeat it, it was
"Yep, you go."
we each have 9 coins.
Or nine
We go
lives, yeah.
through 9 lives, so we only have 1 coin each.
hmm
Okay. So we go through 9 rounds, and we keep flipping it, and we keep calling it. Whoever gets it right, is fine, but whoever gets it wrong loses a life.
hmm
And if we both get it wrong, the
The
next
next
round we
round is
call
worth 2 lives.
2 lives. All right.
If you lose it. If you tie again, then you or if you both get it right, then you just drink and it's not worth anything. If one of you loses, you lose 2 lives. If you both get it wrong again, then the next round is worth 3 lives.
Okay. So good. It compounds. All right.
Yep.
I see what I'm gonna do here.
And he says, "I've got my coin. Do you have a coin to play with?"
Yeah, yeah. Let me look for it. I think I have like $10 on me, And of course, I pull out me coin of luck.
Your coiny luck.
Coin
And,
of luck.
it always lands on the side the user wants.
Do I have to? I forgot. Do I need to announce that out loud?
So, because you don't have to say it out loud, no. You were just saying it out loud last time, but you have done it where you thought in your head heads, and it has landed on heads every time.
All right.
And he
All
says,
right.
well, he says, that's a fancy coin. I got a fancy coin myself. And he kind of shows it to you. It looks like a gold doubloon looking coin.
Oh,
Nice and thick. Looks like made of real gold.
damn.
Shines. He says, well, let's begin. We each have 9 lives. Let me, 1 second. I'm going to do a self roll. What do you see pop up on your screen?
And sorry, I had a different thing open.
Oh, sure.
Just a cube, blank cube.
The blank cube. And then what
Yeah.
do you see? What do you see with this?
Also blank, nothing.
Okay,
Private rule.
but was it a different shaped dice is the key.
For the different shaped dice, yes.
Okay, then I'm going to roll these in person. But you can, since you know what you're gonna roll, you don't have to like call it out. But you can just say whether you are going to say out loud the one you want to roll or the one you don't. Because you may or may not want to look suspicious. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, and then what was it about taking it if we both get it right, we both take a drink, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Then you call for it. Or you say, do you want to have it be the same or a different?
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
So you're gonna flip a coin. You know which side it's gonna land on because of your coin, right?
Coin of luck,
So
yeah.
do you want to get it right and be predicted right, or do you want to get it wrong?
I want to get it wrong the first time.
Okay. Then he is going to say heads. He says he flips his coin and it lands on heads, and you get it wrong.
Yeah, I flip it the tails on purpose.
Okay. He says then, ha, then you lose a life. So now you have 8 lives.
All right.
Do you want to get it right or wrong this next round?
I'll get it wrong again.
This time he says tails, and he gets it wrong. And so he says, we both got it wrong. That means this next round is worth 2 lives.
Okay. This time I want to get it right.
Okay, you get it right. He calls out, I should do it before I roll, but he calls out heads, and it is tails, so you get it right. So he says, blast, that means I'm going to lose 2 lives. Now he has 7 lives. You have 8, he has 7. I don't know how to fucking keep track of this. Let's just keep track of it in our heads. Do you want to get it right or wrong?
I want to get it right again.
Okay. And he goes for heads again, and his lands up heads. So he, what am I saying? He says heads out loud, and you get heads. So you both got it right. Then he says, well, then we both have to take a sip. So you take a sip. Give me a fortitude check.
I did it like this. Whoop-de-doo.
Okay. You're fine. It goes down again. You feel like you shouldn't be drinking this, but it is growing a little bit on you. It's like it has a nice flavor to it, but you just feel like this is
Can I
not like
roll
a
like okay? So
yeah.
he said this grew in the very underdark of
Mhm.
Sumia, right?
Yep.
Would I be able to roll some sort of Arcana check or occultism check or nature check to see if I can identify some of the flavor?
Yeah, go for a nature check would be best with this.
Okay. Oh, I saw the nat 20 flash.
I will say that what you can tell from this liquid is it's certainly not natural, is what you can tell based off of it.
Mm,
That is what I think you're picking up on, it not feeling like you should be drinking this. Is not like you shouldn't be drinking like it's a poison or it's venomous, but it's almost like it's not made for your body. It's kind of what you can tell from it. Like it's not
okay.
made for you to drink, but
Uh,
it still feels fine. And I'll say you're getting a little bit drunk off of it. Like it's not like there's no effect to it, but
sure.
it is just like it's this weird feeling of it's like I'm in my head the analogy is like if like a mortal were to drink like ambrosia, like in Greek mythology,
Okay.
it's like this
Yeah.
like this godly liquid.
Otherworldly
Like
drink.
yeah, it's not what you're used to. It's like the opposite of that because it's not like all healing or whatever like ambrosia is or whatever, but it's it's like the deep underworld version of it. I don't know what that would be in Greek mythology, but it doesn't hurt you, but it just feels weird. It's not natural.
We're wild. All right. Interesting.
Okay, you have 8 lives. He has 7. We go for a roll. I'm gonna say he goes for heads. Do you get it right?
I get it wrong this time.
Get it wrong. Okay, he gets it right. So that means that you lose a life. So you're now both at 7 and 7. Uh,
Okay.
he's going to go for tails. What do you say? You're right or wrong?
I'll get it right.
Okay. Then he gets it wrong. So now it's 7-6. I'm just gonna say your score every time. Because you're the home team, dude.
I'm the home team.
Uh, he's gonna say heads. Do you get it right or wrong?
I want to get it wrong.
Okay. He gets it right, so you lose a life. So now it is 6-6.
Okay.
He's gonna say tails.
I get
You
it
get it.
right.
You get it right. Okay, then you get it right. Now it's 6-5, and he says at this point he says you're doing pretty well, lad. Vaku's normally had 2 at this point, and he kind of laughs and looks at Vaku. Vaku kind of gives him like a dirty look. And he's going to say heads. They're right or wrong.
Um, I've kind of been alternating, so I'm gonna get 2 right in a row.
Okay. You get it right. He gets it right as well. So he says, let's get a drink.
A drink. A drink.
So give me another fortitude save. Sorry.
A Willcom Fortitude save? Oh, fuck!
Oh! You're good. You're good, dude. You're good. Barely good, but you're good. You feel this one, and it feels worse than the other sips you've had. It still goes down smooth, but this one did not taste as good. I'll say that you notice this as well. Like the taste is different every time you have it. It's not like a distinct flavor. It's like a different flavor that,
Oh, it's like absinthe.
yeah, exactly. It's like a different flavor, and it's just the feeling that it gives you is that you shouldn't be drinking it, or that like it's not made for you.
You know, there's a bar at Tech,
Hmm.
um, and they serve you absinthe, but it's just room temperature. Never
Mm,
drink it. Room temperature absinthe is awful.
mm,
Don't have that. So,
yeah, that sounds awful. That's
yeah,
just the
not good.
statement, room temperature absinthe.
And it was like, I don't mind absinthe. I think it's okay. It just has to be prepped right.
Hmm.
But room temperature is just the worst ever. So,
Good advice.
yeah. Anyway,
Do you get it right or wrong?
wrong.
Okay,
Wrong.
he's gonna say tails. He's wrong as well. He says, "Oh, looks like this next round is worth double. And do you get it right or wrong?
Hmm. Hmm. Where am I at right now? It's
6-5.
6-5.
Yep, you're up by one.
I'll get it. I'll get it wrong.
Okay. Get it wrong. He's gonna say tails. He gets it wrong as well. So he says, "Oh, this next round's worth 3 lives, lad." And he, do you say get it right or wrong?
I'm gonna get this one right.
Okay, you get it right. He's going to go for heads. It's fucking crazy. Uh, he gets it. He gets it wrong. So
Ooh.
he loses. It was 3 lives, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he loses 3 lives, and he leans back in his chair. And he says, "Oh, I've got two, lad. You've got me on the ropes." He looks at Vaku and he says, "You might be getting that anchor. Let's see. Let's see if the old Captain Myers can come back into it." Do you get it right or wrong?
I get it wrong.
Okay. He says heads, and he gets heads. He says, "Oh, thank you." And it's now 5-2. Do you get it right or
Okay.
wrong?
I also get it wrong again.
Okay, he's gonna say heads again. He gets heads, so you lose one more, so you're at 4-2 now. He says, "I'm coming back into it."
I get it wrong again.
Okay. He's gonna
I go,
say,
"Whoa!"
he's gonna say, tails. Let's fucking go. He gets, it lands on tails, and so it's another life for you. So it's now 3-2, and he's got a big grin on his eyes. You can tell that he fucking loves doing this. He loves doing these betting games. Do you get it right or wrong in this next one?
I get it wrong again.
Okay. He's going to go with heads. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, you both got it wrong. Uh,
Okay.
so he says this one's worth 2, lad. That means if you get it right, then I could be out of the game. I could lose all my lives.
I was at 3.
You have 3. He has 2.
Okay, I'm gonna get this one wrong.
You're gonna get it wrong. Okay, then he's going
Yeah.
to say heads. He gets heads. So it goes to him. So he says, "I'm in the lead, lad. I'm in the lead. It's 2-1, 2-1." And
All
this is
right.
him saying it out. So you have 1 life right now.
Okay. I'm gonna get the last 2 right. Well, I'm gonna get this one right.
Yeah, you're gonna get it right, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Then he's going to say heads. He gets heads, so you both get it right, and he says, "Let's take a drink, lad."
Let's take a drink. Oh. Well, give me a nat 1 on this drink. That'd be really funny.
Oh my god! He said it. Oh my
Hell
god,
yes.
dude! Not only is that a failure, uh, that's a critical failure
Yeah.
based off of the DC. So, you you take a sip of the drink, and this time it tastes. No, Alden's probably never actually tasted it, but it tastes like shit. Like it's the
Oh.
only way you can it's the only way you could ever describe the taste that you just put in your mouth. And you feel just impossibly compelled just to spit it out. But as you spit it out, your body involuntarily convulses as well, and you just fucking puke all over the middle of the table. And you see all the pirates around go like, "Oh!" And Captain Myers goes, "Oh, laddie, what the fuck?" And yells out. And Vaku says, "Alden, are you okay?" And you feel like you're like the puke that you just puked out was all the stuff you just drank, so it's this black and orange, and it's kind of gotten into your beard a little bit, and I gotta say it smells putrid, like on the table.
Oh. Oh.
and and there's just kind
Oh.
of this moment of silence, not entirely the whole place, but just around this little area as you puke. And do you say anything? You're kind of just reeling from this.
I go, ugh, ugh. What was the call?
he, he says, "Well, lad, if you want to keep playing, we both just got it right, so that's why we just drank. So it's still 2-1 me."
Okay. I called tails.
And do you get tails?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll say, he's like, all right, I'm gonna go for heads. He gets heads as well, and he says, "Laddie, I understand if you don't want to drink or if you just like want water or something, we'll get it. But we both need
Fuck
to drink
you.
something."
I'm
What do you
Alden the Amazing.
what do you do?
Tar! Tar!
You take a big swig of tar. Give me another Constitution. This time it goes down smooth. It doesn't taste too bad. You're almost half expecting it because it's kind of the quality of it has gotten worse and worse. But you sip it down, and it has kind of a nice flavor. It's not kind of muted, but you drink it down. It almost feels good after having thrown up. Just kind of clears
I
out your
go,
throat.
that's not even the worst thing I could throw up.
He he looks at you very impressed, and he says, "Laddie, that's very impressive, and I've never seen someone throw up
And I
after
interrupt him
tar."
by throwing up over on some empty part of the floor with the acid.
Again, everyone at the table, including Vaku and uh, Captain Myers, is like, "Whoa, Alden!" And this time it's almost a cheer of like, "Yeah!" Like, "Good on you, Alden." As everybody's like, "Wow, you can just really puke there, laddie."
Do that on command. Yeah.
He's on command. Well, maybe you should join my crew at some point. And you can tell that Captain Myers is getting pretty tipsy at this point. He's had quite a bit of drink in him.
All
Uh,
right.
and he says, "Well, we gotta go another round, lad. Uh, what's your call?"
Heads. I call heads.
What do you get?
And I get heads if I
You get
go any
heads.
lower
Okay.
than a buck.
Yep. Just making sure. Okay. He says, "I'll go for tails. Fuck it." And he rolls a heads and he says, "Oh, now we're even, lad. One life. Whoever loses their next life comes down to this, laddie." And you call it correctly.
Yeah, I call it correctly.
He says, "All right, let's get heads." And he gets heads as well. So you both have to
Uh,
drink again. I'll say at this
Alden
point you're kind of fucking feeling
goes, this isn't even the worst thing that's happened to me today.
it. He says, "What could? No, almost everything could be worse, laddie. This is just the best time, isn't it?" And he kind of smacks his hand against your back. He's having a good old time. He says, "What's your call?"
Tails.
You get tails. All right, he's gonna go for heads. He gets heads again. Uh,
Wait. Hang
yeah.
on. I'm gonna piss off Vaku, but I go,
Yeah.
hey, if you're gonna drink something, drink this. And I pull out the water sack with the rainbow liquid in it.
Uh, hmm, let's. He. I'm gonna do an initiative roll between Vaku and this fucking guy. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Vaku. Vaku. All right. Yeah, I have. Okay, their modifiers are the same, so I'm just gonna roll two d20. So this one's gonna be Vaku's. Oh, whoops, that was a self roll. I'm gonna do it again. This is gonna be Vaku's. Okay,
Oh, that was almost in that one.
almost. Let's see. This is Captain Meyer. Let's fucking go. Captain Meyer. Captain Meyer takes it and says, "All right, laddie," and you can see Vaku go like, "No!" and reaches out and just swings down and goes. And you can, Captain Myers goes, and Fox kind of coughs against the table, and you can see just splattered against the table is this colored, colorful liquid as it kind of gets splattered. And he goes, "Laddie," and you can just see over his lips, and his mouth is just this multicolored, kind of in his beard a little bit. It's stained. And you can see that the crew is almost like laughing at this point, just fucking laughing because they're drunk as fuck. And he says, "Laddie, what the fuck was that?"
Ugh, a little home brew, and I put it back in my pouch, and I go, Tails!
He says, "Fuck, you're right. We need to keep playing." Oh, tails it is! And he's not thinking, and his lands on heads, and the whole table fucking erupts, and he says, "Fuck, I've lost, I've lost." And you can see that Captain Myers is fucking, he's so gone, he's not even remotely concerned about this fucking stain that's on his face and on the table. And he says, Oh, laddie, you looks like you've won. Oh, what a great game." And he reaches out his hand and he goes for a handshake for you.
Uh, I make sure my coin is back in my pocket by this point. I don't want him to like,
Okay.
I don't know, get suspicious. So, but I go like, yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah.
You go to a handshake and goes for a handshake and he says, "Well, Vaku, looks like you earned yourself a Sumi anchor." And he uh, kind of uh, reaches over to a bag that's just on a nearby chair at another table, and he's kind of ruffling through it, and he kind of pulls out this, oddly enough, looks like this kind of multicolored stone, kind of like maybe baseball sized with like these like rough
Mm.
kind of edges in it, and it has a matter of all of the various colors just painted on top of it, and he kind of slams it in Vaku's hand, and he says, "Here, take this, Vaku. Well, wow, what a great game. I mean, you really don't come here that often anymore, Vaku. You should come here way more often there." And Vaku just has been watching this whole thing. She says, "Oh, well, yes, I'll come by. Well, great job, Alden." And he says, uh, Captain Myers looks at you and he says, "Alden, I gotta tell you something, laddie." And he kind of puts his hand on your shoulder. He says, "You see, Alden, I was playing with a weighted coin." And he kind of slams it on the table and he says, "It lands on heads more often than not, and you must have been pretty lucky in order to beat me like that. Was your coin weighted at all? The game's still fair if it was. I wouldn't have complained in any way."
Alden just breathes heavily, and then he throws up acid again in another corner, and says, "I gotta get going. Allmeyer, Allmeyer, Allmeyer."
Uh, he says, he's looking at you and he says, "Well, give me a diplomacy check, actually."
Yeah. Rainbow beard.
Rainbow beard. I'll say he kind of looks at you and he says, "Oh, my, indeed, but really, what did you have a weighted coin, Alden?"
What's his attitude like?
I'll say, "Give me a
Can I?
perception check." Yeah, give me a perception
Yeah,
check.
I want to see if he's gonna get pissy about me having some sort of coin. Perception, you said?
hmm I'll say, based off your perception, he did say aloud that he's fine if it was weighted. Uh, I'll say that even part of that just, he probably even said another sentence where he's like, "It's all part of the game. I mean, that's the whole point of the game. It's not just random. It's about having the right coin." But I'll say he
I
seems to not care if your coin was unfair.
I had a trick up my sleeve. My coin lands sort of how I prefer it to. So
His
I
eyebrows kind of raise. He says, "Really? It lands however you want. Can I try?"
mm, no.
His eyebrows kind of furrow, and he says, "No, Alden. Why say no? I just want to see it. I'm not gonna take it from you. You could have it right back. I swear I'll be right here, right in front of you. I mean, he kind of looks at you with this like confused look. He says, "I think we just played a game together. We just had a great old time. What?"
All right, but I'll be very sad if you don't give it back.
He, sa- he says, "Oh, Alden, I would never want to make you sad." And do you hand it to him?
Uh, it does stand out from like other gold coins, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's bigger and looks
Okay,
different.
so I
He's
can't
also
really.
seen it.
Yeah, I give it to him.
Okay.
Ugh.
Give it to him. He kind of takes it and he's like, "I want heads." And he flips it up and he catches it in his hand and the heads is appearing. He says, "I want tails." And he flips it up and he says tails. And he's like, "Well, I'll be." And he kind of looks at it and will say, "You're looking at him, look at it." And just for, there's this 1 second pause where you can see his eyebrows furrow up. You can notice that he's looking along the edge of the coin
Mm.
as he's looking at it. And I'll say, Alden, just in this brief moment, I don't think you would have time to react to it. But you remember way back at
Yeah,
Vaku's Peak that
yeah.
it is looks
Written
like
and
it's written in
scripted.
Alcation, which is the language, is what those pages were written in that the researchers at Vaku's Peak that seem to
What
be
you see,
related
Frodo?
to he kind of looks at it and he looks back at you and he slams the coin down on the table and he says, "Now why do you have an Alkasan artifact in here?" And he's looking at you and he has this angry look about him. He's still sitting down, and he's still quite drunk, but he's looking at you accusatorily, like, he's kind of turned it down. The table's, the coin's on the table. It doesn't look like he's taking it, but he's just staring at you. And he kind of screams it out, and I'll say it kind of quiets down a little bit in the room.
I go, what?
He kind of looks at it and he stands up and he's kind of a little bit swaying and he says, "This coin has got Alcation written on the side of it." And I'll say that at this point, it's gotten a lot quieter in this room as soon as he says the word Alcation. And he says, "And the only things with Alcation written on it are all Kasan artifacts." And he kind of looks at Vaku and he says, "Did you know that he had one of these before walking in here?" And Vaku is looking wide-eyed, looking at Captain Myers and looking at you, and says, "No, I didn't. Alden, where did you get that?"
Uh, fucking hell. I got it
Uh,
from,
from
hang
James.
on. James. I go, I got it from Vaku, the tents of luck, the place I want to burn down. We all have someone we can be mad at. It was James. It's always been James.
He says, "I'll say Vaku kind of is looking at you with like this understanding that there's someone at the Tents of Luck gave it to you, and it seems like very much a not good thing that you have this. But Captain Myers is looking at you, says, "It doesn't matter where you got it from, laddie. You shouldn't have brought it in here." And
Oh,
he kind of looks at Vaku and he says, "And you should have looked at him before bringing it in here in a joint like this." And I'll say it's quite quiet in this room right now. It seems like this is the only thing that's happening, and everybody is staring. All these various weird creatures and people and things are looking towards you all.
Alden's sort of coming down from the drunk, and he goes, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know. No one knew what that writing was when I got it, and if I knew it was gonna be this upsetting, I wouldn't have brought it into here.
He looks at you and he says, Alden, if it were anybody else, I would be. He's kind of taken. He's like looking around. And he says, I would be beyond furious. I would be. I'd be beating the shit out of you. But he's looking at you
Oh,
and he says, but I'm not gonna be doing that. But he looks at you, Vaku, or he looks at Vaku and he looks at you and he says, but this still needs to be punished. It's against the rules of Zua's Lounge to be bringing in Alcazan artifacts in here.
oh,
And
shit.
he says, so we're not gonna hurt you, Alden, but we need to send you away, and we can't be sending you back
Oh,
to Vaku, or back with Vaku. And Vaku says, now wait,
oh.
we don't need to. And Captain Myers says, silence. This is the rules that we need to play. We need to follow in this establishment.
Wait,
And he
wait.
says,
I'm sorry.
what is it?
Two things. One, can I ask why? Like, what's the big deal with the a-hole Alkishan thing? And then two, if you want to punish somebody, punish James at the Tense of Luck. Because he's the one throwing this shit around.
He's kind of swaying there. Captain Myers takes a moment, and he says, well, Alcazan artifacts. He kind of pauses for a moment. He kind of shakes his head and he says, they're, let's just say that they don't mesh well with the gods. And to bring something
Uh,
in here with so many deities is just asking for trouble.
oh,
And he
I'm
looks at you.
sorry, everyone. I look around. I'm
He's,
sorry.
he sees all manner of creatures looking at you. The bartender, like octopus creature, is just kind of still, like the tentacles are just in midair. Everybody's kind of looking at you, and you can tell there's like, just in the faces, you can tell from emotion, like there's some anger there. It seems like people are upset with you. And he says, and with this James person, I don't really care where you got it from, Alden, but you just need to take it and leave. And
All right.
he looks over at uh, he looks over and he says, Grossa, can you come and tell when the last people that Alden was with? And you see this like 1 foot tall little humanoid gray creature that was standing on top of a table nearby start to fly over. It looks like it has wings, kind of like a fairy. It starts to fly over and starts to fly towards your head. Do you do anything?
What'd you say his name was?
Grossa.
Gross. I thought you said Kosa.
Oh, no, yeah, that would have been bad.
It's
No.
like, holy fuck.
Grossa, get rid of this guy. No,
We
Grossa
gotta get
with
out
a
of here.
GR, Grossa.
Yeah. Uh,
It's this little gray fairy, about a foot tall, starting to fly towards you. Do you do anything? Captain Myers said, find out who the last people Alden was with.
uh, oh, they should all be dead.
He says, well, go even further than back, Grossa. And as you go up, Grossa uh, comes up, and you can see just kind of floating in front of your face, reaches out a hand and puts its hand on you, on your forehead, just momentarily, and just within the span of like 2 to 3 seconds, instantly your mind is just rewinding everything you've seen the past, like, 2 days, but obviously it hasn't been 2 days for you. It's been like a day for you, or even less than that, like, 10 hours for you. But you start seeing a rewind of everything you've seen from, from the second time you were in the night with the nightmare to Vaku to seeing all the artifacts. The first time you
Mm-hmm.
were in the nightmare all the way back to when the people were left. You now see from your point of view, excuse me, Turlon, Felix, and Vita, standing as you all were talking to Vaku. Uh,
Yeah.
and Grossa says, "Oh, I think I found them. They are Vita, uh, Felix, and ooh, wait, yeah. You call them Vita, Felix, and Turlon. Do you say anything to that?"
Yeah, Vaku said she killed all of them. Are they alive?
Vaku speaks up and she says, "Yes, I may have killed those. You may need to go further back." And Grossa says, "Well, let me check." And uh, Grossa, yeah, this is interesting. Grossa then kind of flies over really quickly, and again, it's just very quiet in this room. It seems like everyone is just staring at you. It doesn't seem like conversation has really started back up yet. But Grossa kind of flies over to what you now see is just a giant eyeball, just sitting in a chair, kind of looking at you, and it seems like it is just disconnected from everything. It's like if it looks around, it's a ball that's staying in place, looking around, and it goes over and places its hand on it and says, "Oh no, they are alive. They're alive.
Oh my god.
Right now
Thank God.
they're walking through the desert right now." And you can see on
Oh,
Baku's face uh this look of shock, genuine shock, and she says, "No, they can't be alive. They fell from such a great height, and they need to be dead. That Vita one needs to be dead." And Captain Myers says, "Vaku, please." Or no, yeah, that's not his voice at all. He said, "Vaku, please. This is not the time for whatever quabbles you had with this Vita fellow. You, Alden, you're obviously not trusted with Vaku. Let me have one of Bryn, can you come over? He's going to take you over to uh, those three. How's that sound?"
oh, that sounds great. I really don't like Vaku. She sort of and I just start rambling.
If Haku's looking at you, she says, "Well, no, uh, and she kind of looks down her hand. She sees that she has the anchor, and I'll say that you notice that she kind of pockets it and thing, and she says, "Well, Alden, it was uh, nice seeing you, and if you need to communicate with me, you can."
All right, thank you. Please don't kill my friends.
Vaku says, Vaku just doesn't respond to that. I'll say she just kind of looks at you as you say that. But you
Oh,
see that Captain Myers, who was talking to this Bryn fella, you look over and there is this large 10-foot uh, being that, and and I'll say the ceilings in this place are like 30 feet tall, but like this
mm,
like 10-foot being that has the entire body of a large raven, but has the
God.
head of just a person with like feathers on
Oh,
their face,
oh,
and says,
I hate
uh,
that.
I know. Bryn kind of walks over and says, "Well," you can see with his voice, he says, "Well, I can get you now." And Captain Myers says, "It was good playing with you, Alden, but I'm sorry these are the rules and you have to leave. And before you go into a place with deities again," kind of glances at the coin on the table, which you've either picked up. If you have picked it up, you'll just kind of glance down.
Yeah.
He'll say, "Make sure not to bring that in. That's not something you want to be showing around to
No,
deities."
I understand. I'm sorry.
And he says, "No hard feelings now, eh? and he kind of points at you, and you can kind of see he's kind of lightened up a little bit. He points
Oh,
to you and he says, "Hey, all buyers brew."
all by his brew.
And with that, I'll say that you turn around to this crazy creature that is Bryn, and Bryn with uh, one of its not claws, just feet. 'Cause I don't think ravens have claws. Maybe they do, but like yeah, like these raven feet kind of
Yeah.
reaches out and grabs your arm, and you vanish. And I'll say that is where we will end the session.
So I'm just gonna show up drunk with the rest of the gang.
You
Hello.
you will yeah, it'll be a spectacular entrance. I'll say that
Awesome. Can't
for
wait.
these people, it'll be fucking stupid.